It's good to check with me occasionally. Today is not going to be that important because for the most part we'll just talk about the syllabus. So we might have half an hour into the actual content of this class, but it's not going to be that much time. So we'll just go ahead and start with the tentative schedule of this class with an emphasis on tentative, which means I might deviate from this schedule or timetable, but hopefully all of these topics will be covered in the semester. And there we go. Okay, you just opened it up. All right. So everything should be on Canvas. If you are already enrolled in this class, you should have access to all this material already. If you're trying to add to the class, I think there's a wait list already. But since the classroom seems to fit everybody here, I should be able to add everybody on wait list into this class. Okay, so you might want to stay a little bit, after class, so I can give you the permission numbers if you're planning to add to the class. Any questions? Any questions? Cool. All right. So the next part is the actual syllabus. I separate my schedule from my syllabus because the syllabus is common to all my classes. So now I'm making this part just common to all of my classes without the schedule in it. So there we go. So my name is Tak. You can just call me Tak or Professor Tak or Dr. Tak. Any one of those would work.
Hi, Professor Tak. Hi.
Sorry?
Hi, Professor Tak.
Hi, how are you? And so I'm not going to go over, the rationale of why this is not on an LMS and the purpose of this document. We all know what the syllabus is about. This part is kind of important. Is how do you contact me? My phone number is 484-8250. I'm usually not at the desk unless it is my office hour, and even with my office hours, sometimes I'm not at my desk either. So just leave a message, because if you leave a message, it will be sent to me. The MP3 file will be sent to me by email, so I will get to hear your message. You can also directly email, okay, which I think works better because if you just kind of type out what you want to ask, it's better than asking by voice. That's just my opinion. My office depends on the day, which is listed down here. On Mondays and Wednesdays, I will be in the Design Hub. If you don't know what the Design Hub is or where it is, check it out. Okay, it's really kind of cool. How many people know what the Design Hub is? Quite a few. So you can share with the rest of the class. Maybe during class or after class. We'll talk. We might actually talk about it in this class, what the Design Hub is. So I'll be there from 11 to noon on Mondays and Wednesdays. So I just came back from the Design Hub today because it's a Wednesday. On Tuesdays, I'll be in Tech Ed 309 because the Design Hub, the room for Design Hub is used for another class. So I'll be in Tech Ed 309. And the interesting part about Tuesday is the student club meeting, the computer science student club meeting is right after my office hour. So if you plan to go to the computer science student club, you might as well just go a little bit early if you have questions that you want to ask me. Is that okay? So there is a computer science student club, and hopefully Kevin or somebody is going to make a presentation in this class so that you guys know what we do and what they're planning to do this semester. So they're planning to do what? Okay, nobody wants to speculate. There are a few projects they're planning to work on. So on Thursdays, I'll be in my actual quote-unquote office, which is now a cubicle. So some of you have visited me before, when we were still in liberal arts. Okay, I got an office. So now my cubicle is about half that size. But it's cool. So if you need to contact me or want to meet with me on Thursdays, I'll be there from 4:30 to 7:20, 5:20 p.m., which is right before my assembly language class. Okay. And then on Friday, I have office hours online. So I will be doing that through Canvas. So I will be next to my computer from 11 o'clock to noon time. So if you need to live chat with me, during that time, I will be able to talk to you during that time. Is that okay? If you want to talk to me on Friday in person, you can just send me an email and we can schedule for a time to meet up on campus as well. Okay, so it's not like, okay, I can only do it online on Fridays, but if it needs to be in person, I can do that too. Are there any questions at this point? Yep, go ahead.
I was going to ask, because I see that you have like the show via YouTube, saying that do you have a YouTube channel where we can check?
Yes, I do. So I'll show you where my YouTube channel is and how to look for recordings. Okay. Any other questions? No other questions yet. Okay, so we'll move on. A lot of these sections in my syllabus is mandatory, which means, the department or the division tells me that, okay, you have to have a section that talks about this and so on. So hopefully all of these, are kind of repetitive across all the different classes because all professors are supposed to do exactly the same thing. So delivery model methods, has to do with online, face-to-face teaching, video clips, reading material, and interactive activities. The reading material is not from a textbook, so there's no textbook to buy. If you find certain textbooks that you find really useful, go ahead and borrow, or buy one, used or whatever. But there's none required for this class. Okay, I type most of my material. Regular effective contact. This is actually supposed to be contact and not content. And communication policy, which basically talks about how you can stay in touch with me, because of the class. This is a face-to-face class, which basically means, if I answer questions in class, I make eye contact, and I talk to you, that's a certain level of, regular effective contact already. So the only way for me not to have regular effective contact with a face-to-face class is for me to write on the whiteboard and face the whiteboard and talk to the whiteboard the entire class, which, trust me, is very difficult to do. Okay, I might do it as a challenge, but usually I don't do that. We also have office hours. Okay, so if we have questions about the class material, concerns about the class or whatever, I have office hours. You can come in and talk to me about those things. We have email and phone. Okay, and we also have LMS text messaging ability. So this is actually the best way to contact me about anything that's related to the class. The reason being, it leaves behind a trail of communication. And the college wants that trail for accreditation purposes. In other words, when the accreditation team comes in, ACCJC being the name of the accreditation team, they want us to show them and say that, okay, how do we know that your professors are not really just talking to thin air, vacuum? Okay, and the students, don't get a chance to talk to the professors. Now we have a log from Canvas showing, okay, see, there are conversations going on, and this is how timely our professors reply, and so on and so forth. So that is the best way to contact me, is through that interface. It will get to my email. Okay, if you try to send a text to me or a message to me through Canvas, it will go through my email as well. So, I can get to it pretty quickly. Time frame policy is on most days is within 24 hours. On weekends and holidays is 48 hours, 2 days. Okay, but that's the best part about having a face-to-face class, is if you ask a question right now, I'm not gonna wait 24 hours before I reply to you, even though it says I have up to 24 hours. Okay, so that's the best part of a face-to-face class, is you can ask questions right away, and I can answer the questions right away too. Etiquette policy is just basically don't do anything that may be conceived as perceived as hostile, harassment, discrimination, and so on and so forth. Just be polite to each other. I used to say treat other people like how you want other people to treat you, and then I realized that may not work for certain people. So we'll just kind of go with this list here. No cyberbullying, spamming, and so on and so forth. First day of class or orientation. This is the first day of class for this particular section. So if you're here already, you don't have to worry about anything here. You're not going to be dropped because you're absent. On the other hand, if you're listening to or watching this video live right now, you're dropped. I'm sorry. No, that's actually district policy. So so accommodations is basically referring to disabled students. If you need any help in any way, go to the DSPS office. Okay, the DSPS office has a phone number. I do not know physically where they are located on campus, but this is a phone number. You can also look up the DSPS office on the ARC website. So that would be a good resource to have, if you need to make use of their service. Huh? Oh, okay, sure. Okay, cool. Excessive absence has to do with being absent for too many class sessions. So technically speaking, the Los Rios district itself defines excessive absence as 6% or more absences. Now, this is a lecture-only class, which makes the calculations a lot easier to deal with. So here's the calculation in minutes. Each class meeting is 80 minutes long. Okay, this is a 3-unit class, which accounts for 54 hours of student contact hours, okay, per semester. So and each hour has 60 minutes. So 80 divided by 54 times 60 is the percentage of time for each class meeting that we have. So we have approximately 2.5% of the entire semester per class. So the first class meeting, the first class that you're absent without any excuse, it's not going to be a problem, 2.5%. Second class, it's not going to be a problem, 5%. The third class is going to be a problem because then it'll be 7.5% or thereabout. Okay, so this only applies to unexcused absences. If you are sick and you have a doctor's note, it is excused. Okay. So if someone has excessive absences, I can drop that person from the class. So hopefully we won't get to there for anyone in this class. Okay, in previous semesters, unfortunately, some people, I take roll, so I take my roll sheet, with me most of the time, but also most of the time I forget to pass it around because I got distracted by what I'm actually supposed to do. I don't even think that it should be called distracted, but I forget to pass the roll sheet. So unfortunately, in the last semester teaching this class, I would say out of the times that I actually passed the roll sheet around, some people have missed like 5 or 6 times. Okay, and then I look at the online activity and they have not been doing anything. So I had to drop those people. So before I forget, I'm gonna pass the roll sheet. So make sure that you have an opportunity to just initial next to your name on the roll sheet. I don't need your full signature, just an initial will be fine. Right. Cool. Moving on. So the only absences that I have to excuse because of the district policy is due to sickness, due to the student's own, sickness. So, but it has to come with either a doctor's note or some kind of verification saying that, okay, this person has been sick or cannot or should not go to school, then it has to be excused. So other reasons for absences, but they are not going to be, they are not excused, by district policy, would include all of these, reasons. And you are allowed 2 of these days, per semester. I mean, there are 2 times that you can miss a class because of one of these reasons. At least one of these reasons. Yep.
Is jury duty unexcused?
That is an interesting question. The jury duty is not listed as an excuse that I have to accept, but I think it should be. So if jury duty, yes. So I would take it as I would excuse it. Now you have to keep in mind that certain types of court cases may take a long time. So any type of lengthy absences, even if it is excused, may not be good or reasonable for taking a class. So you have to make that call and go like, okay, I think I'm absent, having too many absence for this semester, even if it is excused, because that would impact how your success in the class. Okay. And for that matter, military excuses or military reasons are also excused. So if somebody has how do you call those exercise or drills?
Yeah.
So if anyone has drills, you have the paperwork to show that. I would excuse those as well. Late policy is basically no late policy. Basically anything late is not going to be graded. So don't be late. Okay. Most homework assignments has at least 1 week of time for you to do it. So just time yourselves. Don't be late. The next section talks about academic dishonesty or integrity, depending on how you look at it. So the bottom line is your grade should reflect your academic performance and yours only. And it has to follow all the rules that everybody else has to follow. Okay, that's the bottom line. And the way I define cheating or dishonesty is right here. Okay, it is an attempt to show possession of a level of competency, knowledge, or skill that is beyond that of the student. If it's below, it's okay. I would not consider that as dishonesty. I hear that sometimes. It's like, well, my actual competence is better than what I showed in the test, but I'm sorry, I cannot give you a better grade because the test result, it doesn't show it.
That's some academic honesty, right?
Okay, and for this matter, I also cannot grade by effort. In other words, if someone just show me, okay, but I spent all this time studying for this class, I cannot use that in grading. Okay, so the grading has to be done by assessment, based on competency. Okay, and I do understand, some people, do not perform or usually do not perform as well in tests because of stress and anxiety and stuff like that. So my suggestion is to find out how to alleviate the stress or the anxiety due to, okay, I'm being tested. And there are ways. Okay, if you want me to help you find ways to kind of alleviate that stress or anxiety, I'll be more than happy to do some research. Is that okay? Because I'm one of those people who don't get stressed out, even though I know I'm gonna flunk a test. I'll just go do it. I'll just go like, okay, this is what I have to do. I know I'm gonna flunk it, but I'm gonna go in and do it anyway, without actually a whole lot of stress or anxiety. So I lack the empathy for those who feel the anxiety. But I'm more than willing to do some research and find out how to make it less anxious. Okay. So the limits test of whether there's dishonesty involved is if let's say student A has been either reported or I observe or there's some doubt in my mind whether that person whether the submitted work of that person is reflecting a grade that is higher than that person is capable of. Instead of going straight to the dean, I would go like, okay, let's make a test. Okay, so I would test that person. Okay, let's say the activity in question is an exam. Okay, so I would make up alternative questions for the same exam and have that person to take the test. If the alternative version has about the same score as the original one, I go like, okay, my bad, it's cool, no problem. If the alternative test scores a lot lower, then I will bring it up to the dean and go like, okay, I'm suspecting there's something suspicious here. And typically, I would not have this kind of suspicion unless I can actually find proof in the question, in the answers to the questions already. Okay, so that's how I would go about doing this sort of thing. The importance of academic honesty. Yep, go ahead.
What if somebody scores higher on the test?
That is a good question. If in that case, okay, if this is something that I do, I would consider using the higher score of the alternative test. But this is not by the request of the student. I have to emphasize this cannot be triggered by request of the student. This has to do with me suspecting something to begin with. In other words, I don't want like 40 something people saying that, oh, please suspect me for being dishonest, and I would like to take the test again. But you also have to keep in mind that if you score lower than the first test, that might be bad for you too. So you have to kind of it's a gamble. I would just put it that way. Okay, so the next section talks about the importance of academic honesty. You can just kind of think about what happens if ARC as a college, okay, does not care about academic honesty or integrity. Okay, so we just let people take the test any way they want to, and then we have, let's say, a proportion of people doing it in a not so honest way. Okay. And these students would transfer to Sac State, and they would transfer to UC Davis, they would transfer to the four-year universities, right? And then problems show up. Okay, a particular student who's getting all A's at ARC cannot get past their classes at UC Davis, and it becomes a pattern. It's not a particular student; it becomes a pattern. So why would that be bad for the other 75% of people?
Reputation.
Yep, UC Davis, we just say that we cannot accept transfer students from ARC. Okay, because they are not it's not up to the standard that UC Davis wants. Okay, so that's why it is important. Okay, consequences would be I would talk to the dean. Okay, so the dean can decide what to do after that point. We do have a student discipline officer on campus, and that person can decide what to do. I cannot know about the history of a particular student, whether there's a track record of these things. So I cannot take any further action other than, okay, you're going to get a 0 in this test. Okay, but the discipline officer does have record of all the reported incidents, so that person can do a little bit more in terms of discipline. What if you think that I have falsely accused somebody? Well, this is the document that you want to refer to. It's called the Guide to Student Rights and Responsibilities. How many people have read that? Now that you know it exists, are you going to read it?
No.
Why not? Why not? This is about what you can do in case of you being treated unfairly. So,
Most likely.
sorry?
Can we just fight you for being treated unfairly?
Because a lot of reading is like a need-to-know basis, and we don't need it right now.
Like,
But how do you know that what classifies as something that you can complain about? So you might want to read it just to understand that part. Okay, I'll leave it up to you guys. Okay, it's not mandatory reading. Okay, classroom behavior expectations. Relatively easy. Okay, no food, no drink, in the class. But since you don't have a computer, in front of you, or you don't have a school computer in front of you, if you bring your own laptop, that's yours. Okay, so if you want to drink plain water, that's okay. Okay, but no coffee, soft drink, anything that's sugary, that sort of thing. But plain water is fine. Is that okay? Does everybody understand, what you can drink during class? Okay, cool. You can also bring something that you're not going to drink in the class, and that can be anything. Just make sure it doesn't spill. Okay. 2 semesters ago, I got one student who made her own yogurt, and it spilled. So it was on carpet, and it was it's nice. I mean, it smelled really nice for the first day. Then you cannot smell the strawberry anymore. You can only smell the kind of
Bacteria.
yeah, exactly. Yep. So just be considerate for that matter. The usual problem I have with classroom behavior is just regular, just typical chatting. Okay, and most of the time it's not even chatting. It's not like chit chatting. Okay, it's chatting because somebody did not quite understand one sentence that I mentioned. Okay, something that I mentioned, or did not take notes fast enough. Okay, and I flipped the screen already. And then that person asked the person next to that person and go like, okay, can I take a look at your notes, or can you explain back to me, blah 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 blah. So it is still class related, but it's disruptive. If I can hear it from here, students around that person will definitely hear that. So that's the whole thing. Okay, I just don't want the whole class to be disrupted or distracted. So if you have a question about something that I talked about and you need clarification, just raise your hand and ask me. If you want me to slow down or stay on the same screen for a little bit so you can copy something, just let me know. Okay, not a problem. Is that okay? And if you want a discussion of something, I can open up the discussion too, but I want the whole class to participate if there's a discussion. Oh, thank you. Cool. So it looks like we got 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 people not showing up, and 1 person on the wait list did not show up, and nobody beyond the wait list is here. So I think I should be able to add everybody. Okay. And I can do that by sending you the permission number, so you don't even have to stay after class. I can add you to Canvas right away and then send you the permission number when I have time. Okay, continuing with this stuff. Okay. Mobile devices, it's easy to fix these days. You just turn on Do Not Disturb and schedule this class on your calendar, and then have your Do Not Disturb to stop all the ringing during any time you have a scheduled block of time. Okay, so that's pretty easy to do. How to attend lectures. Okay, I'm not going to lecture you about how to attend lectures because you're in this class already. You have obviously taken a lot of classes already. So with this class particularly, okay, understanding the material is important. So you're here in class face to face, to mostly, kind of listen on to what I have to say, but it is also you also should be actively thinking and be asking questions. Okay, if something that I say does not make any sense, raise your hand. Go like, okay, I don't understand why, blah, 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 blah. Okay, if something that I explain is not clear, you raise your hand and you say, I'm not quite understanding what you say, blah, 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 blah. Can you give me an example? Okay, so you have to help me to make this class interactive. Okay, because I think we learn better, if it is interactive. Otherwise, you can all stay home and read a book on discrete math. There are plenty of books out there on discrete structure or / discrete math, and most are pretty expensive. I don't understand that part either. Why textbooks on subject matters that has not changed for 20, 30 years is so expensive. How much do you pay for your calculus textbook that has not changed since Newton?
260.
Huh?
Like $260.
$260. Yep.
It's still a lot cheaper than a calculus book from Newton's time.
From what?
A calculus book from Newton's time today
Yes.
is much more.
Yeah, because that's hand printed, man. that's not packaged.
Yeah, but most of those concepts, they don't even have to come in the textbook anymore. You guys got Google. When I was in college, there's no Google. Okay, I have to go to the library and go through the index, the actual physical, index to find books that might have the, topics that I'm looking for, and then I have to go check out those books, to find out, to search for things. You guys just have to type in Google, and you got your answer. Sorry?
I said I grew up with download, if that helps.
All right. So the other thing about taking classes from me, or that is a little bit different from how you take other classes, is unless I forget or unless there's a technical difficulty, I screen record all my classes. So that's including everything that you see on screen, as well as my voice. Okay. So do you need to write down everything on the projector? Not a whole lot, okay? Occasionally, maybe, okay? If something seems really important to you, go ahead and write it down, because the motion of writing it down is going to help you remember something, okay? So that's important, but not every single detail. Yep.
Are we allowed to use our notes in the test like pretend?
Yes. So this class, all the tests are going to be open book and open notes. Anything that is either printed or handwritten prior to the test, you can bring. And there's no quantity limitation either. Okay? Not necessarily. I'll be the last person to evaluate whether my tests are hard or not. So I'm not going to answer those questions. Don't even bother to ask me. Tag, is the next test going to be hard or easy? I don't know. I just don't. I mean, I cannot tell you.
Depends on how much you like the class.
Depends on how much you understand the material. That is the most important part.
What he's saying is hard or easy. Because you're teaching, you don't know if what you're saying is hard for people or easy for people.
It's really hard for me to assess that. Yep. I used to think that I'm kind of normal and in every way, and then I was told that I was not. So. Okay, how to succeed in this class? Okay, it's all about understanding the material. Okay. So there are a few questions here. How do you know whether you understand the material or not?
If you can do assignments.
I can give you assignments.
If you could describe it to someone, explain it to someone else, is what I usually found.
Okay, and also a lot of times we have a lot of technical terms in classes like this. The technical terms do not use the kind of day-to-day definitions. So everything has a very kind of tight, narrow definition. So that means if you understand, okay, I understand how this word is used in conversation, but in this class, it probably has a very narrow definition. So if you're thinking, okay, but I'm not really quite sure how it is defined in this class, then you have to clarify that. Okay, so when we get to words like that or terms like that, I will point those out and go like, okay, you really have to understand what this means. Okay. Yep.
Do we have AC in this class?
Do we have air conditioning? Yes, we do.
Can we
And
crack the door? Because
yeah, go ahead and crack the door.
So,
The thermostat is set to 68. Oh, okay. It's gonna cool. It's gonna get into cooling mode at 75, and heating mode when it's down to 68. Currently, it's at 72. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a humidity sensor, so 72 degrees. Is cool when it is dry, but when it's humid, like right now, it's not comfortable. We also have windows too. We got windows that can open. I'm gonna try that. I don't think we got a long setup here. Do you mind? Nope. Yay! Because you need air to circulate, otherwise, it's just not gonna do anything. And then we can open those too. I got it. I'll open this one so it's not right next. If it's starting to get too close, just let me know. We'll close it. Yep. Well, each person is equivalent to a 200 watt heat source, which is not a whole lot. But when you have 40 people, you have 40 times 20, which is it 8,000? 800.
Did you say 200?
No, it's 8,000. 200 watts per person, and then times 40. That's 8,000. 8 kilowatts. 8 kilowatts is a lot.
it's like a heater.
Your regular heater can only put out about 1,800 watts of power. So this is like 4, of those electric heaters that you can buy, running at full all the time, and then plus the humidity. So it's kind of like a humidifier combined with heaters. Yep. All right, so I kind of looked into understanding and understanding a concept. So I'm not going to go through this because we have enough gibberish in this class already, so I don't have to use this example. Yep, but you have to question the terms every carefully and go like, do I really understand this term? Do I understand that sentence? Okay, because this is not a class in like history. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that there's nothing to understand in a history class. That is far from what I'm saying. Okay, but they don't have technical terms that have very narrow definitions like we do in this class. So, okay. So this is the section that is kind of important. Is what if you find out that you're not understanding a particular concept? What do you do? Okay, so let's say it is a sentence that you're not fully understanding. Okay, a function is bijective if and only if it is injective and surjective. That's the sentence. And you're going to, I don't understand it. Okay, so what do you do?
Read the next sentence.
Before you ask me. There's something you can do before you ask me. Okay, do you understand what a function is? Okay, but you think you do. Okay? So let's say you understand what a function is. So the next question is, okay, the sentence itself is defining bijection. Okay, it's defining what is bijective. So that is the one thing that you can say, okay, I can afford not to understand bijective because this whole sentence is to define what is bijective. Okay, so you kind of put it aside and go like, okay, that's cool. Then you have a function is bijective if and only if it is injective and surjective. So the next phrase is if and only if. Do you understand what is if and only if? Okay, to most people it's like sort of, right? Because you use the word if a lot, lots of times, during a day. Okay, but is there a difference between the word if versus the phrase if and only if?
Yes.
If there is a difference, what is it? So you got to, in your mind, you have to ask all of those questions. Okay, do I really understand what is if and only if? So let's say you do. Then we only have 2 more terms to define. What is injective and what is surjective, right? So let's say you have not taken this class before, you have not been exposed to those concepts before. So you go like, okay, injective is one of the words that I do not understand. Surjective I don't understand either. So then what do? You can Google, you can look up my class notes, you can look up the videos, recording of this class when we talk about those particular terms. In other words, it is a recursive algorithm. Because now the question is, okay, so how is injection or injective defined? So you read the definition of injection or a function being injective, and you analyze your understanding of injective the same way that you did with the original sentence, and that's why I call it recursive. And this is also why cisp440 is useful, because that's when you encounter a lot of recursive definitions and recursive subroutines. So is that okay? So when do you stop? I mean, with all the recursive algorithms, the main concern is my stack deep enough, right? So when do you stop?
When you get to something you fully understand.
Exactly. And then you back out. You back up until one of the definitions has something else that you do not understand. Then you go down that way again. In other words, you're doing a depth first search. Another concept from CISP430. How many people encountered the term depth first search in CISP430? That's later today. Very good. Okay, but you will encounter that term. That's one of the search algorithms that class will explore. So that's why these 2 classes really go hand in hand, because some of the concepts in this class apply to the other class and vice versa. Okay, cool. This class is kind of about problem solving because we have a lot of proofs to do. Okay, would you say that a proof is an application, is a case of problem solving? I would think so. Okay, so we have some proof in this class, and it's not the kind of proof that you do in your calculus class. Proofs in this class are definitely not mechanical. It is not about memorization. It is about how you apply the concepts. So there will be a lot of problem solving. So about independence, when you're doing your homework assignment, okay, when do you say, okay, I cannot do this alone, I cannot do this by myself anymore, I want to work with somebody else? When do you, what is that threshold? I spent 2 minutes trying and I'm not going to give up now. I tried 20 minutes, I'm going to give up now.
If you could wake up twice, if you could wake up 3 times and not come up with a solution.
I like that idea, okay? So the way I do my problem solving or do my proof is I do not just stare at the question and just keep rereading the material. Okay, in fact, if you do that, that might actually be worse than not doing it. Okay, because when you keep staring at the question or you keep reading the text itself, you overlearn the sentences and not really fully understand the concepts, because now the sentences become so familiar to you that you go like, yeah, I get it. I can even regurgitate. I remember exactly how bijective is defined. But do you understand the meaning of those words? Okay, so the way I do things in this class, there's plenty of seats on this side. Come on. No, it's okay. Come on over. So the way I work, when it comes to proofs or things that are difficult to do, is I will read the question. I will kind of remind myself the problem that I'm trying to solve. I will work on it a little bit, and then I move on and do something else, because the subconscious of your mind is more powerful than the conscious mind. How do we know that? If you look at Windows or Linux or whatever that has a GUI, how much processing power is used by the GUI itself? Like moving the cursor, updating the screen, and that sort of thing. A little bit, right? But then, all of the processing, so all the excess processing power can be diverted to background processes. And your mind is the same way too. You're paying attention, you're listening to what I'm saying. That's using like 10% of what your brain is capable of, if that. At the back of your mind, you're processing something else. Okay? What am I going to have for dinner? Okay? What am I going to do, over this weekend? I wonder when my Amazon package is going to arrive. Oh shoot, that person across my house, may actually steal my package. I got to find a way to stop that. Right? So your mind is doing all that processing at the back when you're listening to me. And you can use the back of your mind to process problems too. Okay? So the key is you kind of review the problem itself from time to time. I would say twice, a day or something like that. When you make progress, you write it down. And when you're really kind of stuck, like, I'm not going any further, you just kind of leave it alone and move on and do something else and then check back later. So I like what you said, you woke up 3 times and it is still kind of stuck, then it's time to ask for help, okay? How do you ask for help? So let's say this is a homework assignment.
You just write down what you don't understand and then go to someone who does understand it to give a deeper understanding of what you're doing.
Okay.
Is there a discussion board?
I can open discussion boards for this class. Yes, I can do that. So that's, those are ways to, but what do you ask when you say, okay, I'm kind of stuck, how do you ask me or a fellow student? Yep, go ahead.
Say what you managed to do
Mhm.
to that point, and then say where you stuck, and ask for a solution, ask for a next step.
Ask for the next step. Okay. So let's say, now let's switch sides and go like, okay, I'm the person answering the question, and you do have the answer. You got the homework done already. So how are you going to answer that question, the question from the student who had the question? Here's my solution. Go away. Yeah, go ahead.
Give them advice
advice rather than an answer.
Give them advice instead of an answer. What kind of advice? How do you give out those advice?
Show them what kind of concept they should be looking at or what kind of tools they should use.
Exactly. Okay, so if this is, yeah, go ahead.
Asking a lot of questions and having a person say out loud their thought process. A lot of the times, kudos me.
Yep.
I'll be like, wait a second, I got it, never mind.
Yep.
Like just verbally going through your thought process, and something will a lot of times like.
So what I'm hearing is, there's, you can answer a question with more questions. Okay? Now, that can annoy some people to no end, okay? But it's the best way to help out the other person.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? The other thing is just to mention, just to remind the other person the concepts that have been introduced already. In other words, that person is looking at a nail, okay, and trying to push the nail into a board, okay, and go like, oh, this is not working, my hand is hurting, right? So instead of pulling your hammer out of your tool bag and go like, let me do it, bum bum bum, done, okay, you're going to look at that person and go like, what's in your tool bag? The person go like, I got a wrench, I got a screwdriver, I got a measuring tape, and I got a hammer. Okay, so let's say that person did not realize, oh, I can use a hammer for this purpose. Then you ask the question, what do you use a measuring tape for? I use it for measuring stuff. Can you use it to nail that thing? No, not really. Okay, what else is in your tool bag? I got a hammer. What do you use a hammer for? It's for destroying stuff. What else can you do with a hammer? Oh, I can use it to hit the nail and do stuff. Okay, I think you got your answer. So you're basically just reminding the person what they have already encountered or what they have already understood at that point, and see if that person can make that connection. Because if that person is making the connection himself or herself, then you're really helping that person. If you're making that connection for the person who's asking the question, it doesn't benefit the other party as much. Okay? So there is that. Okay. Studying a little bit before class is always helpful, and now that I do have notes, ahead of time, it becomes useful. My grading standard is a little bit different, but I think it kind of makes sense to me, because the way I grade exam questions and also homework assignment is I just throw stuff into the A, B, C, D, F bins. Okay. And A means it's a perfect answer. I cannot think of a better way to answer the question. Doesn't mean it is exactly the same as the key or my solution, but there can be multiple perfect solutions to a particular problem. Okay. A B means it's a really good answer. It shows me that whoever came up with that answer really understood all the concepts. However, that person omitted certain things. Okay. Or make some really silly mistakes, okay, mechanical mistakes, not really conceptual. It's just that, okay, how come 2 + 5 is 8? Okay, so if that's the only mistake that person makes, it's not exactly a perfect answer, but it's really good. That's a B. A C means the answer indicates that that person understood the core concepts sufficiently, but has lots of mistakes. Okay. And then the D means that person did not show me that that person understood the core concept, and I just have to say, I am sorry, this is not going to be a passing grade for this class. And then F means that person either made no attempt or the attempt shows no understanding whatsoever of the concept that is being tested. So the other way to look at this is to think about Amazon. And you think about an A as something that deserves 5 stars in the review. A B is 4 stars. 3 stars would be a C. 2 stars would be a D. And then 1 star would be an F.
I don't know. A lot of those reviews are pretty bad.
Think about how you would be writing a review and assigning the stars. So a 5-star product is like perfect product. I bought this. It works out better than I expected. Okay, I cannot ask for any more. A 4-star product is really good. Okay, you bought it and it worked the way you expected, okay, and it's reliable, but you go like, well, there are minor little things that can improve. Okay, but would you recommend it to a friend? Absolutely. Okay, if it's a 4-star product, you would recommend it. A 3-star product is kind of like, I thought about returning it, but it's too much trouble. Okay? It's like, it works, okay? I guess it's okay, okay? A 2-star product means, I'm going to return it, and I'll tell all my friends not to buy it. That's a 2-star. A 1-star product is the one that doesn't work. You return it after it burned your house down. So that's the way I'm going to grade everything, and that's why when it comes to assigning letter grades at the end of the semester, anyone who's getting at least 87.5% gets an A in this class, and then between 62.5% and 87.5% is a B. Between 37.5 and 62.5% is a C. And between 12.5% and 37.5% is a D, and anyone who's getting less than 12.5% is going to get an F. I think that one is kind of okay with everyone. Sorry?
None.
Okay, but does that make this class easier? Because the thresholds of the points are different. And you can see all the people who have been taking classes from me go like, no. So so talking about which, so in terms of activities of what we do in this class, this part I haven't changed, but I have added something at the end here. We do have homework assignments, and those account for the graded homework assignments account for 20% of your grade. Okay. And then we have the first exam, which is about 1/3 through the whole semester. It is worth another 20%. And then we have the second exam, which is going to be about 2/3 through the semester. That's also another 20%. And then the remaining portion, which is 40%, comes from the final exam. So yes, every single semester I would tell people, yes, if you miss everything else but you ace the final exam, you pass this class with a C. Because a C is at least 37.5%, and the final exam itself, all by itself, is 40%. But what are the chances that someone could not score a single point from the first and the second exam and could not get any points from the homework assignment will finally go like, hey, I can just ace the final exam.
Make them take the exam.
Because there's no evidence of that person's performance, right? It's not consistent with all the past submissions. Well, that person can just miss the exams or just turn it in blank, right? Just write the name on and go like, waiting for the final exam. Now, don't take it the wrong way. I'm not challenging anyone in this class to do that, just to show that you're really smart and you can just ace the final exam. So it is recorded, okay? I know it is recorded now. It is not a challenge. All right. So starting with this semester, I will also give you guys ungraded assignments. In other words, this is the kind of work where I'll give you the problem. Okay, it will be on Canvas. Okay, in other words, it's somewhat official. I'll give you time, usually about a week, to work on these, and you can work together. Anything that is graded is supposed to be independent and individual, but if it is not graded, you guys can work together. Okay, have little groups of you to kind of work on problems together. Yep.
Would it make more sense than to just do ungraded assignments as 100% or 0%? Like you can do anything, but still grade them?
Well, it's not graded because I don't know who did all the work, so there's the fairness issue involved, and I don't want to get into arguments like, well, I try my best, out of 5 people, but I'm only one person. I cannot get everything done, and I'm getting a grade lower than 100% because the other 4 people are not working on anything. So I don't want, that type of scenario when I'm grading. So these are going to be ungraded, okay? But they are just as important, if not more important, than the graded ones. So don't, just skip all the ungraded work because it is quote unquote ungraded. Because when you work on the ungraded homework assignments, you are actually studying. That's how we study in this class, is to work on those problems and exercise what you have learned in class. Knowledge alone in this class is not going to get people a lot of points. You have to demonstrate that you understand the concept and be able to apply those concepts in problem solving. That is the key of this class. Okay? And why do you think that is the case? Do you think it makes my job easier that I ask open-ended questions in all the exams instead of multiple choice and reuse the same questions semester after semester after semester?
Yeah,
It makes my job easier?
probably.
Why would it make my job easier?
Well, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
With open-ended questions?
Open-ended.
Oh, with open-ended question, first of all, the first obstacle is I have to deal with penmanship. What is that word? Okay? And then and then everybody has a different way of expressing the same thing. I have to kind of look for the things that I'm looking for instead of, A, D, C, B, A, F, and so on. It makes my job a lot harder when I ask open-ended questions that test whether you guys can do problem solving or not. But why am I doing it? Because I hate myself?
It challenges us more.
You can challenge you guys more, but ultimately, why are you here? You're moving on to a 4-year university, right? Okay. So they will have more problem solving questions too. But ultimately, after the 4-year university, what are you going to do? Retire right away.
Work for the Big Four, work for the state, or be a Lancer.
You'll be working, right? So you'll be working to pay off your student loan. Forever. So you have to deal with your employer who's going to write you the paycheck. What do you think your employer is going to ask you to do? Problem solving. Wait, what does computer science type of jobs have anything to do with problem solving? I thought it's going to be like, just kind of a lot of chores. Tag, we would like you to click on this button, click on that one, click on that one, and do it 20,000 times per day. Those jobs are the repetitive type of jobs, the jobs where you're just doing the same thing over and over again are
Automated?
Exactly. They are automated and therefore gone. Okay? What is left? As a computer science student graduating from a 4-year university, what kind of jobs is left?
Automating.
Doing the automation part. Exactly. So you're doing the automation part, right? That is problem solving. Okay? There are other jobs as well. Okay, so automation is a big thing. You would probably hear me talking about robotics, automation, AI, that sort of thing. But there's one more thing that is really important that you should keep in mind. I'll only mention 2 words: meltdown and Spectre. Computer security. Okay. Now, meltdown and Spectre are very interesting, from the perspective of computer security. It's much more interesting than the ransomware stuff that we had before. Okay, ransomware is kind of interesting because there's money involved, right? Okay, but when you look at the kind of security flaw and stuff like that, it's kind of run of the mill. What is so special about meltdown and Spectre? It's a hardware flaw. In other words, it is not about Windows, it's not about Microsoft, it's not about Linux, it's not about Mac OS X. It is about Intel, about AMD, it's about ARM. Okay? It's a hardware flaw, which also means regardless of your operating system, the vulnerability is still there. Okay? It's because of a race condition. Now, if you combine all of those things that I just kind of talked about, AI, robotics, automation, and now we throw in, meltdown and Spectre, right? So 20 years into the future, you look at the parking lot, there are no cars anymore, because no one needs to own a car and drive to campus and pay $1 to park the car, because we'll all be, riding on autonomous vehicles, right? When we fight a war, there won't be people on the front line anymore because everything is automated. It's going to be robots, running AI software, on the front line.
StarCraft.
Well, depends on species then. Because Zerg don't get to benefit from that.
Yeah, that's true.
And we can go in that direction too. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So and then okay, once we have all of these automated stuff, right? And then we have Meltdown. Meltdown affects Windows, Mac OS X, Linux, anything that runs on the Intel processor or the ARM, well, many of the ARM processors are affected as well. And then AMD is affected by Spectre, but not Meltdown. Okay. So now that we have the Internet of Things, we have deployed a lot of stuff, and then there's a security flaw coming up. Think of the impact of that. Your autonomous vehicles are hacked. Okay, the military, automated drones are hacked. Everything are hacked, and not only are they hacked, they're hacked at the same time. Okay, we have not seen anything like that in the history of mankind. We have had computers for decades. Okay, it's no big deal. We got computers. So if you dial the clock back, let's say. So back to 85 or 82 or something like that, when the IBM PC first came out, and let's say somebody found a really big security flaw that can hack every single PC that existed back then. First of all, what is the impact of all of those PCs stopping working at the same time? There'll be some impact for sure, okay? But is that going to affect the power grids? No. Is that going to affect, the autonomous vehicle that you're riding, going to school, is going to crash into a light pole because it wants to? No. Okay. Is it going to cause all the military, attack drones to go point in the opposite direction? No. It'll be an inconvenience. Okay, but not so much of a huge disruption or disaster. Okay, but 20 years into the future, when the same thing happens, every single facet of life is going to be affected.
Emergency EMP?
That's unexpected.
Well, the AI is going to get
Dang,
control
damn
of
it.
that first. The AI is going to I am in control of all the EMP devices. I'm going to shield myself first. Okay? I know this is not exactly related to the syllabus, and I... Okay, so...
Oh, it's this thing. Kill on him.
No, but there's something is even better. Crowd. The robot is trying to do a crowdfunding. It's trying to crowdfund to improve the amount of hardware that it can use for herself. I'm going to make myself smarter by growing more brain, and you guys are funding it.
Will we be covering machine learning?
We don't have any classes to talk about this here. Okay, but this is the trend. Okay, we laugh at this today in 2018.
Yeah.
In 2028, we'll be weeping.
I gotta stop laughing now.
Okay, we'll be weeping because they will figure out, the AI will figure out, things that we cannot figure out. I mean, the biological brain can only be so flexible. Okay, there's no such thing as thinking out of the box. Some people just have a bigger box.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but when it comes to AI, there really is the shape and the size and the volume of their boxes are completely different from ours. We cannot model how they think. Okay, so I'll just kind of stop here, with the AI stuff, which is kind of a digression, but it is kind of important. The other thing I want to show you is where you find the recording for this class. So what you do is go to YouTube, and the channel name is Some Profs, SOMEPROFS. Just gonna write it down here, and that's my channel name. All the recordings, that I have time to change the name of, they're all going to be kind of like this one, or the one that I recorded yesterday. Where is that? Well, this has not been refreshed yet. So this is the live, current one. If you click it, it has about 20-second delay. So what you see on that screen is what you're seeing here about 20 seconds ago. This is what I recorded yesterday. So you can see the name of the recording is basically just the date of the recording followed by the name of the class. So this is for CISP 310. For this class, it's going to be 2018-01-17 CISP 440. So this is how you can find the recording for a particular class. And I do have about 2 to 3 years of recording already. So if you want to know what I talked about last semester or the semester before that, you can just find out what time, and just go for those two. I cannot remember how many semesters I've been doing screen recording. I have about 2,000 something videos on YouTube. All right. So I think we're almost done with the syllabus, and I digressed a lot. Okay, getting back to the ungraded homework assignment. So how do you learn from a homework assignment when it is not graded? Okay, in the process of doing it, you're already reinforcing the concepts that you learned in class. But how do you know that whether your answer is right or not? Well, I'll tell you that I will give you my solution. So, sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to say, give us an example of one that works.
Yep, but I'll give you the solution. If it's a proof, I will give you a solution. I will give you my proof. Okay, so now what do? Once I disclose my version of the proof, what do?
Compare.
You compare. Very good. So if your proof and my proofs are exactly the same, obviously you go like, okay, if I'm wrong, I'm as wrong as TAC is. Okay. But what if they're different? Now, just being different doesn't mean it is wrong. Okay, so you might want to look at the differences and go like, okay, it's just two different ways of doing the same thing. But if you have any doubt in your mind that go like, I'm not really sure whether this is still correct or it is just a different way of doing the same thing, then what do? You ask me. Okay, so you show me, the ungraded, answer, and go like, okay, this is my answer. I'm not sure whether it is still correct or not. Can you check it? Can you let me know whether I made a mistake or this is just another way of doing the same thing? Okay, so that's how I want the ungraded assignments to be treated. Is that okay? All right. And because it's a group project or potentially a group project, you can come as a group. Okay, and then you guys can all ask me the questions at the same time, which is great. It's more effective that way. So is that okay? All right. Now we still have about 8 minutes to talk about content of this class. So I'm gonna move on and talk about some other stuff related to this class.
Where do we check for the assignments?
I will tell you. When I give you assignments, I will tell you that okay, here's an assignment. This is really kind of interesting. MBTI, some people know this and some people may have never been exposed to this sort of thing. MBTI refers to Myers-Briggs type indicator. It's a way to kind of type people. There are 16 types because there are 4 letters. The first letter is I or E for introverted versus extroverted. The second letter is N versus S. Sensing, which is S, versus intuition, which they choose the letter N. The third one is feeling versus thinking, so it's F or T. The last one is judging versus perceiving, and that's why it's J versus P. Okay? And that's why there are 16 personalities, because it's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, or 2 to the power of 4, and that makes 16. Okay? It is kind of interesting because you can take the test, but you don't have to tell me your results. Okay, that's not something that I need to know. But it might be helpful for you to understand which type you are in, because these will also give you ideas of what careers, what type of job is suitable for your personality. Don't bother if do not be bothered if the recommended list of occupations does not include computer science, because it's not absolute. By no means is it absolute. Okay, but it will tell you something about yourself, your strengths, things that you may not be very good at, things that you're really good at, that sort of thing. So I would take this test just to understand, myself better. And that in return can help you in many ways. Okay? For instance, in my case, I'm easily distracted. So when I'm studying, I go like, oh, look at that shiny object over there. Okay? So when I know about this problem, I can find ways to minimize my distractions. Okay? Maybe I should start with somebody else, somebody who's not easily distracted, and just go, let's focus on da 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 and not get distracted. Go ahead. Sorry.
You just get some blinders.
Blinders? I'll be distracted by the blinder itself. Then I'll start to wonder, I wonder how much opacity is actually needed for this thing to be effective. And then go do some research. Okay, 75%, not quite enough. 85? Where's the threshold? So this is something that you can do for yourself, just for your own information. But in some way it is related to this class because it also changes how you learn and how you interact with your professors. And professors come in all 16 kinds as well. Okay? So you might find that, certain professors, I like the way they teach a class, and certain professors, oh man, I cannot learn anything from that class. Sometimes it has to do with, the types not being compatible, because, the types also influence how people communicate. Sensing types versus intuitive types, they go like this all day long. Okay? So it's kind of important, to kind of find a way to communicate more effectively. So for your reading assignment, because we won't have a class until Monday, so you got 5 days. So reading assignments, in terms of reading assignments, you won't be able to see this. Okay, I'm going to collapse this because you cannot see that. We'll go to introduction. So I will just kind of go ahead and read these 3 slides. The first one is not really that important. It's really just talking about how I typically teach a class, my actual MBTI. Okay, I'm an INTP. Okay, so you can kind of look at your type and look at my type and go like, oh, I see there are some differences and there are some similarities and whatnot. So that one is not too important. The next one is the truth about truth. It talks about the importance of understanding logic, because that's basically what we're going to be dealing with for the most part in this class. Is what are we dealing? What do we study? Okay, and then the last one is something that hopefully is familiar to you because you're coming from at least CISP 360 and 400, because you need those classes to get to 430, right? So in those classes, or even in 300, we talk about conjunction, which is and, A-N-D. We talk about disjunction, which is or. We also talk about negation. Those are the Boolean operators. But I define a little bit more. I also define an operator called implication, okay? And also an operator called equivalent to, is equivalent to. Okay, so it expands on the operators that you already know, but that forms the basis of everything else that we talk about in this class. Okay, I think many of you can finish these 3 within about half an hour. Okay, so if you do have time left and go like, okay, but I want to be better prepared for this class, start with set theory. Okay, so go for the first link, okay, basic set theory, because if you have studied set theory already in high school, it's the same stuff, okay? But you might want a refresher. If you have never been exposed to set theory, this is new stuff, okay? So you might want to read it before Monday, because I'm pretty sure I can get through all of this stuff on Monday, so we will probably get to basic set theory on Monday, at the end of Monday. Right? So are there any questions? If someone comes in late, you might want to initial on the row sheet. So I'm going to leave the row sheet up here for a little bit for you guys to sign. And that's the end of today's lecture. So I'll see you guys on Monday. It sounds really weird, but have a nice weekend.
I'm actually in the class, but I didn't notice that the section changed.